Hey everybody, welcome to episode 1 of the Engine Insight Show. My name's John Bowling, this is John James and Blake Perrier, and John's going to take it away, give you a quick intro to who we are as a company and who he is, and then we'll get started.
Hey, we're three of the members behind Engine, a new cloud-hosted e-commerce platform currently in closed beta, launching in the next few months. We come at it from a little different perspective. We're all e-commerce operators. I've been doing it personally for over 20 years. In 95, I started my first in my college dorm room and actually paid for medical school. I'm a doctor, a reformed doctor turned entrepreneur. So my last business actually was probably the most successful one. We ended up raising over $100 million of venture capital for our e-commerce brands. We had multiple. Acumen Brands was the name of it. Country Outfitter was our largest. We ended up acquiring about 8 million Facebook fans, 11 million email subscribers, raised $100 million of venture capital and sold it to a private equity firm. We're building Engine to take the insights we learned for the last 20 years and build it into a software platform that actually works.
There you go. So, premise of this show, since we're episode 1, we'll give you a little bit of background. We're going out and looking for questions on e-commerce, on business, on startups, things of that nature. We do have an active Facebook group that we're going to be seeding questions from first, and then be reaching out to other platforms as well. So, Blake, you will hit us with the first question.
Yeah, our first question here comes from the e-commerce subreddit, and this is somebody saying that they started selling on eBay in the Philippines a few years ago, and they've now turned this into an e-com business, and they're wanting to know what they can do to make their website better. So we're going to pull up their website here and check out exactly what they're selling and how we can help them out. So let's look up here. This is Barkadahan, and it looks like they are a e-com site focused on selling men's and women's, looks like mid-range watches. Mm-hmm. Pretty good kind of landing experience on the homepage. They've got some like trust badges at the top that look good. And then you drop down and they've got newest arrivals and kind of a brand block there at the bottom. So I'm looking here for kind of things that they could improve on right away. I'm tapping on their main product image there to see their product page. So far, the homepage looks pretty good if they're focused on purely watches. Product page is well formed. Man, this description, I think their description could use maybe like a customized, like something like about the watch and maybe aspirational about wearing it, because this looks like it's just data on the watch.
Yeah, go back to the homepage real quick.
Yeah.
I know we're looking for deficiencies and how to improve, but one thing really important is elements of trust. And first thing you see, 100% satisfaction guaranteed. And that actually brings up probably the best A/B test I've ever run on an e-commerce site. We were in a meeting at our last company. We had probably 20 of us in the room, and we were talking about signals of trust and how signals of trust can increase the conversion rate pretty dramatically. And so in the meeting, we had one of our developers, a guy named Brian Sage. He actually took a stock standard seal, and it just looked like a trust seal or whatever. And he put
Golden circle.
he put
Yeah.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, and loaded it actually during the meeting. And we made fun of him. He showed us. We pulled it up, and we said, "No, Brian, we're looking for something more substantial, more whatever. But since you started the A/B test, let's run it and see what happened." 22% increase in conversion rate off a simple seal that looked very similar to that. And so what he did is actually took that, put it at the bottom of every product page. So it was literally residing in the footer, and it was everywhere.
Yeah.
And probably the most impactful, easiest, 3 minutes to
Right.
do that? So,
And they've got it here
they've
right
got it
above
right there
their
on the
content,
front.
which I think is
so
great.
that's good. I mean, because we're in watches,
Yeah.
and I've never heard of this brand, and it's got a funky URL on it. So any element of security and trust is a good thing here.
I like the Instagram feed, but I feel like it could be more kind of user-generated content. Because when I look at these 3 images, it makes me think of images coming right from the manufacturer. Mm-hmm. So I think having that be somebody real wearing one of your watches or with a box, kind of the unboxing experience, showing that, I think could build some real social proof.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The site itself, they're a reseller.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing that's tough these days. If you look at how e-commerce has progressed over the years, 20 years ago when I started, just having a product and a supply of it was enough. I mean, just selling online was that in and of itself. Well, let's look at Fossil watches. Well, Fossil sells direct through Fossil.com. Amazon likewise sells Fossil. I don't know that Walmart does, but Nordstrom and Saks and Dillard's and several others sell it. So how do you, as a retailer, step up and separate yourself from the game? And that's easier said than done. In fact, it's hard to make a lot of money as that. Because what we're increasingly seeing in e-commerce is the loyalty lies in the brand. So if you buy a Fossil watch and you love it, you don't think, hey, I'm going to go back to Barkadan and buy another one. You think, God, I love my Fossil watch. And then you go to Google or you go to Amazon and you search Fossil watch. So it's a little bit of an enigma on how to do it. So you, as a retailer, have to separate yourself somehow. Zappos famously did it by customer service. There's been a few other good examples of it, but you have to be more than this dumb supply chain. If you're a dumb supply chain, you don't matter. Amazon's better than you, and they will beat you.
Yeah. And I think something, onto that point is how do you differentiate yourself, customer service, things of that nature. A really great way is to understand the life cycle of someone who buys a watch. That's understanding your own consumer data from repurchases and then repurchases across multiple sites. And if you know that a wealthy person buys a watch every year, if they buy a watch from you at the first of the year, re-incentivizing them in the later parts of the year and sending them a watch case or sending them something that's a low value item to you, but you can send to them saying, hey, we really value as a customer, we're thinking of you. That personalization touch will sometimes break that brand barrier, because ultimately, like you said, if they're an avid watch person, they can buy direct from that website, buy to Amazon. Amazon and that website are not spending the time to customize that approach. Is that something you can do to kind of stand out?
Well, how do you add value to the equation, right? Is the question, because here's Amazon, they've got the best supply chain in the world, and they've got all the trust in the world. So you have to somehow come in and number one, find a customer. So let's say watches. Let's say you're a world-renowned expert on watches and it's truly your passion. Well, write about it. Get it out there. Prove to your customers that you know what you're talking about. I recommend this Fossil watch for these 9 other reasons. Now, that's not going to keep them from typing that Fossil watch into Google and price comparing after you love them. But assuming all things equal, your price is the same, you have free shipping, it's fast, you're trusted. Well, shoot, they might just take a risk on you.
And I think there's importance, too, and while you're building that content, to link to your product in line in that content. Make sure that you're linking back to your site, though. So if you're talking about a gold watch that you're trying to sell, that you're linking right to it. So if they're reading that article, they can go and purchase it from you right from that article.
It's an amazing way to reallocate budget. You can allocate, take an upside-down approach and put 20% of your budget up top, building that authority, building that trust, building site visits, and then 80% of your budget on the retargeting to kind of sweep up after they've hit that piece of content.
Well, you just can't touch on trust enough here. I'm not going to buy a watch from some random retailer online. And so, one thing to look at is the URL itself. And we're all 3 pretty savvy individuals, but that's the first thing I looked at. Is saw this long URL of a name I would struggle to retype into the browser, and so that's another element that maybe you'd look at and improve on.
Going to jump to the next question?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, our next one is from the e-commerce subreddit again, and they said, how can we improve our website? We launched January 1st. Since then, we've been able to get a 2% conversion rate via Google Adwords, and they want to improve that. So let's dig in to this site here. This is Spawn Seats.
I love this site.
It is next level PC
cool.
gaming chairs.
This is really cool.
So this is a great kind of landing experience. It's full width. Easy to read nav from home products. There's not a lot going on, and there's a call to action to see the chairs right away, which I like for sure.
Well, and the imagery is beautiful. That's the other thing that's just striking out at. There's scroll back up to the top there. It's next level PC gaming chair. So it's a really simple value proposition that just hits you in the face, and it's coupled with a really cool looking chair. I mean, I could actually see myself sitting in one of those day to day.
Now, from a user experience standpoint, the pricing being kind of hidden into the chair, would you recommend that over, or is it something that really matters?
I mean, I like digging in and being able to see what color's there first before you hit them with a price point right above the fold.
Well, it says cheap on the front page, so
yeah.
I mean, you're talking about this it doesn't say cheap, it says value. I mean, this is a value chair is what I'm getting. You know, the question was around 2% conversion rate, and conversion rate's nebulous, right? I mean, if you advertise on the word chair, you're not going to get a 2% conversion rate here. Whereas if someone searched for buy spawn seat gaming chair and you only got a 2% conversion rate, well, you're doing something wrong. Yep. So 2%, you have to really qualify what you're getting 2% on. If you're advertising on the word gaming chair and getting a 2%, that's a pretty generic keyword. It's it's pretty high up in the shopping funnel. So to me, if it's a 2% conversion rate around a generic term like gaming chair, boy, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's not a lot there to improve on. What then maybe you do is figure out how to of the 98% that didn't buy, what is your tactic to get them back? And that's when a retargeting, remarketing scenario comes into play. So number one, make sure you're doing that on Facebook. Google's retargeting as well. Don't necessarily bid against yourself, so don't go out and do ad roll and Criteo and Google retargeting and 9 or 18 different ones, but stick to the ones that work. Google and Facebook are pretty good ones.
And I mean, we're in the age of streamers right now, so you go in and I mean, just look at PewDiePie for example. I mean, he references his chair every single episode. He's getting on average 3 to 5 million views an episode. Finding smaller people in the streaming market. I mean, you're not going to be able to go after Dr. Disrespect. You're not going to be able to go after these massive channels. But going after people who have 100,000, 200,000 subs, incentivizing them, maybe if you're a startup and you don't have, $150,000 advertising budget for a single influencer, seeing how you can incentivize them to use your chair is another way to, I mean, just talking about cross-channel marketing and really at the end of the day, your paid media, finding the channels that bring you the highest rate of return is the goal. And so testing those channels against each other, a 2% conversion rate on Google AdWords, but it's a high-cost word, high-cost, things like that. Finding other ways to go about it and just kind of brainstorming and thinking about that is something that I'd really encourage you to do. But
Yeah, it all comes down to math, right? I mean, this is a $169 chair. Let's say, I don't know if they make these or if they're a reseller of these, but, let's say they make them and these chairs cost, I don't know, $50 to make. Well, you've got $130 of, $20 worth of profit built in there. Free shipping, of course. Shipping a chair is expensive. So you've got, assuming my margin numbers are right, and it could be just the opposite. I mean, this may be a reseller, a $169 chair that he's buying for $139, and all his profits going up in that. So the math is really the cost per customer acquisition versus the contribution margin you make off each purchase is really important. Talking about influencers, one thing I'd like to see here is really a testimonial. And even better if it's from someone I've heard of. Hey, Gamer X, he's the greatest, he's the LeBron James of gaming, and here he is sitting in his chair. Geez, I mean, go give him one in exchange for that. Get a testimonial on there.
We'll talk about social proof that if one of these product images just happens to be a semi-recognizable Twitch streamer sitting in the chair would really
have an Instagram feed sitting right there of user-generated content of people actually playing Overwatch or whatever in their blue spawn seat chair. That'd be pretty cool.
I think another good thing they're doing here is they make free shipping pretty clear in the description, and then they say the price you see is the price you pay, and your chair will arrive within 10 days after you order. Perfect. They make it very clear when you're going to get the item, and I know that chairs and furniture is something that's always kind of debated with shipping. Is when am I going to get this?
Yes.
Am I waiting on a last mile delivery truck? They make it very clear when you're going to get the product, which is great.
But another thing would be a guarantee there, right? I mean, you could go one step further and say, we guarantee you like it. If not, ship it back. Hassle-free returns. And if you really want to up the game, free shipping both ways, right? Zappos famous for that. Free shipping 365 days. I'm not advocating you do that unless the math says to do it. I mean, you could lose a lot of money.
No returns.
Exactly. Right. If your product really is as good as it kind of reads and looks, and you really do have a bunch of 5-star reviews, no one's going to send it back. It's kind of hard to send a chair back. So, why not get rid of that fear factor there?
Okay, so they do have good reviews.
Yep, they've got reviews on there too.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good there.
So let's look at our next question then. This next one is, how do you find somebody to fund your e-commerce startup, either as an investor or as a lender? Any direction would be appreciated. This one's from Reddit, too.
Oh, gosh. That is a minefield, and I've sat on both sides of the equation here. I bootstrapped my first couple businesses. The one I started in my college dorm room. My brother and I actually started a business right after 9/11 in 2001. We bootstrapped up to 8 figures of revenue, so $10+ million of annual revenue. And then my last business was just the opposite. We ended up, raising a $5 million Series A round of funding, which was the first in Arkansas, which is where we're located, in over a decade. And then a few months after that, the Dillard's department store, the publicly traded Fortune 500 retailer, invested in our Series B. So we raised that. And then, a $93 million Series C, one of the, probably 10 largest e-commerce fundings of all time, and it happened in Arkansas. And so I've run that route, and I can tell you a little bit about that, but let me tell you about the other side of the table too. For the last 3 years, I've run Hayseed Ventures, and it's a funding arm that we use to incubate small startup e-commerce companies. So we'd write small checks anywhere from $50,000 up to, I think our largest was $250,000. And the things we were looking for are a little bit different. If you're running a run-of-the-mill e-commerce startup that sells other people's stuff and nothing really separates you, the first question you're going to get is, how are you going to beat Amazon? And if you don't have an answer to that question, just don't even try. Just give up. Stop trying to raise capital. You're not going to do it unless you raise it from an idiot or friends, family, or fools. And then you got to ask yourself, why am I doing e-commerce if I'm not differentiated in any sort of way? This is not 2001. I was not differentiated in 01. You just arbitraged keywords off of Google. They were super cheap. I sold barbecue grills back in the day, and you used to be able to buy the word barbecue grill for a penny, a nickel, a dime. And if you sold grills, it was hard not to make money out of that equation. Well, let's see, same keyword today probably costs $4 or $5 or $6 off Google. So really hard to arbitrage other people's stuff. So it's got to be something better than that. There has to be some reason. Well, there has to be customer loyalty. There has to be repeat purchase behavior. There has to be something there, or any e-commerce investor worth their salt is going to pass. How we found ours was pretty interesting. We were at the right place, right time in 2009 when we raised our first round. E-commerce was still young, hot, and sexy, and there were a lot of people making investments in e-com. Dillard's came along, and they were looking to solve a few challenges on their own internal side. So that was a pretty easy one. We had some really good intellectual property that they wanted access to, and the robots. That's what's interesting about that deal is if you have robots, you have a pretty high chance. We had a Kiva automated robot fulfillment center system, one of the 20 that had been installed, and Dillard's was actually building the 21st install of this. And so they came up, toured our facility, and I asked Mr. Dillard for money, and he funded us.
How did that actually happen? So were you following that they were doing that, and you reached out that you had them, or was it just...
No, it was a stroke of dumb luck. There's a guy named Nick White. Nick was on the board at Dillard's. He was one of the early Walmart guys. I think he was on the founding team of Sam's Club or something like that. And I happened to play golf with him one afternoon. That's what happens in Bentonville, Arkansas. You just run into people right on Dillard's board and Walmart's board. And so about halfway through the round, I mean, believe it or not, I had no idea who this guy was. He's one of the more powerful men in all of retail. And he said, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I'm a doctor." And I just kind of went on to him my next shot. And then I told him, I said, "Well, we just installed these robots," blah, 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 and told him the story. He gets on his phone on the next hole. He says, "Mr. Dillard would like to meet you. He's one of my good friends, and I'm on the board." So that's how, it's just serendipitously. Yeah. And believe it or not, that's how things get funded outside of Silicon Valley. If you look at Arkansas, I think we're a microcosm for every city in the U.S. Other than Silicon Valley. Maybe Austin, maybe New York. But for the most part, finding investors is pretty serendipitous. Mm-hmm. So Engine, for instance, same type deal. We just closed a $2 million round of seed funding, and there's really no local seed funding group pitch. And seed funding almost always comes within a 50 or 100-mile radius of where the investor lives. So for us in Arkansas to go get seed funding, now maybe my resume is a little bit different than yours. Maybe I could have gotten seed funding from Silicon Valley or New York. For most people, seed funding checks come within 50 or 100 miles of where they're located. So we just happened to run into another CEO of a publicly traded company, and he stroked the whole seed funding route. And he happened to be an e-commerce investor. He was in Shipped, which just sold to Target for $550 million. They had just consummated that transaction and found a good place to take some of his money off that.
So with that, like making it as actionable as possible, if someone's coming to you, what are the 3 to 4 to 5 things that they absolutely have to have for you to look at it?
Yeah, I mean, there's several. Number one is the Amazon question. If you don't have a good answer to how do you compete in the Amazon world, then I'm out. Number two, it has to be your own product for the most part. I'm not, unless there's something super special that I haven't seen, you have to have your own product. Because today the loyalty is seeming to lie more in the brand side. So like our last one, hey, it's a Fossil watch. Right. I'm not going to buy it from this retailer. I'm going to buy it from Fossil. I like Fossil. I don't like you as a retailer necessarily. And that's just the way things are. So I want to see a completely differentiated product that you can't buy other places. Hey, if it's your own product, hey, go sell it on Amazon as well. That's a fine answer. But it's got to be your own product. Number three, oh wow, this one, I'm debating whether that's more important than number two or as important, but it's lifetime number of purchases and customer loyalty, right? So if you are Zappos, for instance, I buy, with 3 kids that are in different sports and a wife who does many activities and many different activities, I bet we buy 30, 40 pairs of shoes from Zappos every year. That's a pretty good lifetime value there.
Do they have to have the horizontal integration when they meet with you, or just a plan for it?
That's a difficult question because I tried that in my last business. We started with cowboy boots and we sold a bunch of cowboy boots. And cowboy boots inherently have a low number of repeat purchases. 1.28 purchases per purchaser in the first year. So how many pairs of cowboy boots do you really need? So we tried to horizontally spread across and be everything in the country lifestyle, and frankly didn't do a very good job of it. So no, if I'm going to write you a check, I kind of want to see that. Dollar Shave Club cheats on that. They sign you up for a monthly subscription, and so their number of purchases per purchaser is off the charts. Geez, what is it, 36, 60? I don't know.
It was like 48 the last time we looked at it.
Way up there. I mean, even Casper. Look at Casper. So you order one mattress, and that seems like it'd be a very low number of purchases per purchaser. But so that brings us to number 4. Well, how did they get around it? Well, that mattress probably costs $100 to make, and they sell it for $999.
Well, now they've expanded to sheets and pillows, and they've expanded their product base.
Exactly. There's your purchase per purchaser going up, because sheets, I mean, that's a replenishable, replaceable thing. Oh, and when your kid jumps on your Casper mattress, it's pretty cool. They want one too. And so it kind of spreads, and then you tell other people, I ordered this mattress online. It came in a box about this, the size of a very. I cut it open, the dang thing expanded. I put it on my bed, and lo and behold, it was actually comfortable. And man, it was easy. I didn't have to borrow somebody's pickup truck. So they've got a virality built into that as well. So that's it. So gross margin per purchase. $999. Let's say it costs them $100, maybe $50 to ship it. So they're making $800, $850 on a transaction. So that'd probably be my 4th or 5th one.
Well, with Casper too, they have the trust factor of if you don't like it after 100 days, you can still send it back. Well, when they send it back, they actually donate it to like a nearby homeless shelter or something like that, so it gets used. So there's almost like a social value even through their returns program.
Stance socks is another one. Socks are obviously replenishable, but they sell like $30, $40 pair of socks. They got to be pretty special, and they are. I've been out to their factory. I know Jeff, their CEO, fairly well, and had the pleasure of touring. There's a lot of magic that goes into every one of these Stance socks. And how about that? Yeah, you weren't expecting that.
No, I'm a sock fan. So.
But how many pairs of Stance socks do I own? I probably have a dozen pair, and they aren't going to last forever. And 3 months from now, I'm probably going to buy another dozen pair, and just because they wowed me. It's incredible. So.
What did they do? So your repeat purchases, are they, and this is kind of going off topic for the question, but
Sure.
what did they do to re-incentivize a second purchase? Was it just providing an amazing experience?
Yeah, I mean, the socks were fantastic. The other thing they did, and this is post-purchase, this was fantastic. There's a ruler in
That's right. Yeah.
in with their underwear. So you order underwear as well from them, and the underwear is wrapped in a ruler. There's no instructions. It doesn't say what you're supposed to do with this ruler, but I'll be darned if I didn't walk in into the office the next day and say, dude, look at this.
Yeah.
Here's the underwear I bought. There's a 7-inch ruler, and then the jokes started flowing, you know? I mean, oh, too big a ruler, too small a ruler. I mean, you know, I mean, whatever. But, I mean, it was interesting. It was compelling, and not to take it in a crude direction, but it was definitely a conversation starter and something very,
Right.
very memorable. A local brand here in town called Lauren James. If you go Google, you go to YouTube actually and type Lauren James unboxing, you'll see, gosh, close to 1 million
Yep.
results
Yep.
on this.
I think
It's
so.
unbelievable. They send this beautiful, well, if you're a teenage girl, it's beautiful, pink packaging. And
Or sorority?
yeah, sorority
Yeah.
girl, their target market. And you open this thing up, and it's pretty spectacular. It's very similar to, but in a different way, to the unboxing of an Apple product. It's done very, very well. And so, yeah, you're a sorority girl. You just bought from Lauren James. It's got to be pretty incredible for me to whip out my phone and view myself
Sure.
unboxing it. And then to waste your social cred and post that out on YouTube, you've got to have an experience there. So that's another thing that I offered to invest in Lauren James. They didn't take our money because they didn't need it. They were making too much money. So I hate that Lance didn't take it because that would have been a great investment.
Perfect. We got last one.
Yeah, last question. This one's from somebody when asked about Facebook ads on Reddit. They were saying, how do you find what products are being heavily advertised on Facebook? They said they're looking for a niche and don't want to go into a market that's already saturated with stuff that's being advertised heavily on Facebook.
Yeah. So
That's a hard
Facebook as a platform itself, so there's no way to go on and see, like when you're in an auction, so when you're in an AdWords environment, you can go in and Google has tools to see, most search terms, price per, it's a pure auction environment. Facebook algorithm takes in a lot more into thought when they're actually bidding, so it's a type of auction that takes in the relevancy of your ad account, the relevancy of your ad to the consumer. They measure a lot more than just Google does, on the front end. So I don't know of a way that you can actually go in and look from a perspective of who's advertising, who's spending the most money. So with this question, ultimately, and there's really two ways to look at it. When you're building a business, and really any business, it needs to be something that you enjoy, even remotely, because if not, there's no way that you're going to push through it. For me and my background, I've really only worked with entrepreneurs who are just very ridiculously passionate about the product itself. So they were very passionate about what they made, what they crafted. So for them, it wasn't a question of, is this audience saturated or not? It was, how do I rise to the top? So from a mindset perspective, are you focused on competition, or are you focused on being the best at what you do? And so that's one way to look at it. John, especially being excited about the actual business and arbitrage itself, speaking to, reselling obviously at a time and place, but when you started your businesses, was it a passion? I don't think it was a passion for the product itself, but it was a passion for...
No, but it starts with a good product. I think the Facebook ads is the answer, not the question. And by that I mean you have to start somewhere else. It has to be a product. And then you say, well, how do I sell this product? And then the answer is Facebook ads. The question is not, how do I go create Facebook ads? What should I create Facebook ads about? No, you got to start with a product that is going to sell. Facebook is not magic. It is, well, sometimes it's close to it. It's pretty incredible, some of the targeting you can do there. But it comes back to the business proposition. What value you're adding to the equation. So I just suggest reframing a different question. And that's one thing I do. I met with 300 entrepreneurs over the last few years. Some of them were in the idea phase trying to figure out, and a lot of they'd ask me a very similar question, and it was a misguided, wrong question. You want to start a business? Great. Well, first, find a need. And to John Max's point about passion and all that, I don't think you have to be passionate about it. You have to see a need. And most often you see needs around your own passions. And so I think that's a nuance, but it's a good one. So find a problem, solve it, build that product, then go build Facebook ads. And that is a much easier question to answer. Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of it's based on your ambition. So I mean, like, going back to your point about the nuance of asking your question yourself, if you want to go out and you want to build a $100 million company, you've got to solve a big need. If you're wanting to make a lifestyle business to where you can make, $50,000 to $100,000 a year and enjoy the crap out of it, then you don't have to service as large of a need. There needs to be one there, but the magnitude of the problem or the solution that you provide is going to be the magnitude of the revenue that's returned back to you.
It comes back to the end game. I mean, we're sitting here. We want to take over the world of e-commerce. We're structured a little different than most, so we come at it from that perspective. If you're looking to raise capital, okay, yes, you've got to be able to provide a logical way to 100x the capital that's come in. But that niche business that you can create, there are endless number of these 50, 100, 250, $500,000 businesses that are sitting there waiting to be discovered. So reframe the question, ask it a little different way. I'm pretty sure you'll find one.
Perfect. Guys, thank you all for paying attention. That's episode 1. If you have any questions, comments, we're going to be live and active in the YouTube channel itself. Also, call to action here on the first episode. Join the Facebook group. Our goal with these videos is simply to pass on the knowledge that's in these guys' heads to people who are looking to start or looking to grow a company. So join the Facebook group, Pitch Free group there, and we're excited to talk to you tomorrow.